I was born into a devout Brahmin family in India, where religion wasn't just a belief, it was a way of life that dictated everything we did. From the moment I could understand words, I was taught about the sacredness of our caste, our traditions, and the gods we worshipped. My family took immense pride in being Brahmins, the so-called purest among Hindus, entrusted with the responsibility of upholding religious rituals and spiritual knowledge. My childhood was filled with prayers at the temple, grand Hindu festivals, and daily rituals performed with unwavering devotion. I remember waking up to the scent of incense burning in the prayer room, the rhythmic chanting of mantras, and my mother pressing red kumkum on my forehead before I left for school. At the time, it was all normal to me. It was my world. But as I grew older, cracks began to appear in the foundation of what I had been taught. The first time I felt something was wrong was when I noticed how my family treated people of lower castes. Our house help, a woman named Meena, was kind and hard-working, yet she wasn't allowed to sit on our furniture or touch the food we ate. If she did, my grandmother would demand that everything be washed thoroughly, as if her touch had tainted it. I was too young to articulate my discomfort, but something deep inside me told me this wasn't right. As a child, I asked questions that my parents brushed off. "Why can't Meena eat with us?" I'd ask. "Because that's just how things are," they'd reply. "She was born into a different caste, and we must follow our dharma." Even as a kid, that answer didn't satisfy me. But what could I do? I was just a girl in a conservative household, expected to obey, not to question. Everything changed when I was 14. At school, we had a new teacher for moral studies, an elegant woman in a hijab named Mrs. Aisha. She had a calm presence, and unlike most teachers, she never raised her voice. I was drawn to her from the start. She treated all students equally, whether they were rich or poor, Hindu or Muslim. One day, I stayed back after class to ask her a question about kindness. The conversation led to a discussion about equality, and she casually mentioned how, in Islam, no person is superior to another based on birth only, by their deeds. Her words hit me like a lightning bolt. Could this really be true? A religion where people were not born into privilege or inferiority, where everyone was equal before God. It was the first time I had ever heard something that resonated so deeply with me. From that day on, I was obsessed. I started researching Islam in secret. I'd stay up late at night, hiding under my blanket with my phone, reading articles and watching videos. I found out that Islam rejected idol worship, something I had always questioned silently. It spoke about one golden, all-powerful, merciful creator with no form, no statues, no intermediaries. It made sense to me. Then I discovered the Qur'an. I read translations of a few verses, and the more I read, the more my heart softened. I remember reading Surah Al-Ikhlas, where Allah says, "Say, He is Allah, the One, Allah, the eternal refuge. He neither begets, nor is born, nor is there to Him any equivalent." Something about those words struck me. They were simple, yet profound. It was a description of God that was clear, logical, and powerful. That night, I whispered the Shahada for the first time. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is His messenger. I was just 14, sitting alone in my bedroom, whispering words that would change my life forever. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about consequences. I wasn't thinking about my family, my friends, or the world outside. All I knew was that I had found something I had been searching for without even realizing it. But my journey had just begun, and it was far from easy. For the next 4 years, I lived a double life. I practiced Islam in secret, performing prayers in my room with the door locked, whispering the verses so that no one would hear. I learned to fast during Ramadan while pretending I wasn't hungry at home. If I was caught skipping Hindu rituals, I would quickly make up an excuse. The stress was suffocating, but the peace I felt in my heart kept me going. Then came the moment of truth. When I turned 18, my family started discussing my marriage. A Brahmin groom from a good family, someone who would preserve our traditions. The idea of being forced into a Hindu marriage, living a life of rituals I no longer believed in, terrified me. I knew I had to tell them. One day, I finally decided to take the step and face the truth. My father's face darkened with disbelief. "This is a joke, right?" he asked, his voice trembling with anger. I shook my head. "No, Baba, I've accepted Islam." The explosion that followed shattered my world. My father's rage was like nothing I had ever seen. He yelled, called me brainwashed, accused me of bringing shame upon our family. My mother sobbed uncontrollably, begging me to reconsider. My relatives were called, priests were consulted. They told me I was going through a phase, that I needed purification, that I was dishonoring our ancestors. For weeks, I was locked in my own house, forbidden from using my phone, cut off from the outside world. My parents thought that if they isolated me long enough, I would break. And for a moment, I almost did. I remember lying in bed one night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if it would just be easier to give in, to go back to the life they wanted for me, to pretend that nothing had ever happened. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. Faith is a strange thing. Once your heart has found the truth, it refuses to settle for anything else. At 20, I made the hardest decision of my life. I left home. I packed a small bag, took what little savings I had, and walked out of the only life I had ever known. It wasn't a heroic moment. I was terrified. I cried the entire way to my friend's house, where I stayed until I could find my own place. The first few months were brutal. I was alone, with no support, struggling to make ends meet. But through it all, I held on to my faith. The Muslim community took me in, supported me, gave me a sense of family that I had lost. Now, years later, I look back and realize that my struggles shaped me. My journey to Islam was painful, but it gave me a strength I never knew I had. I lost a family, but I found something greater: peace, purpose, and a connection with my Creator. If you're reading this and you're on a similar path, know this: you are not alone. The journey is hard, but the truth is worth every sacrifice. Hold on to your faith, even when the world stands against you. Because in the end, it's between you and Allah. That's all that truly matters.